Hey everybody, Randy Patterson here with Boomerocity, and as I record this, it's the early afternoon of June 11th, 2025, and the word has gotten out that our beloved Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys has passed away. I had the privilege of interviewing Brian on March 17th, 2017, and it was an interesting interview, to say the least. I didn't know what to expect, and well, I'm just going to put it out there for you. It was probably it was and still is the shortest interview I've ever conducted, and in a way, the toughest interview I ever conducted, because I didn't realize just how short his answers would be, and quite frankly, what kind of condition he obviously was in at that time. And shame on me for not having done better research and preparation for it. Big lesson learned. But I was thrilled, absolutely thrilled, to be able to briefly chat with this amazing musical genius, American homegrown, as we like to say. To give you a little bit more background, the interview was supposed to take place, I think, about 30 minutes later than it happened. I was in my car. I just happened to have my little digital recorder that I used at the time to record all of my interviews. And lo and behold, the call came in saying that Brian was ready to do the interview. I wasn't back home yet to get in my office. So what you're hearing is a lot of ambient noise in the car. I had to pull over in the parking lot of a park near where I lived. And the quality of the recording is obviously pretty poor. And because I was caught off guard and I was not prepared for the short answers, I had to wing it, folks. And what you're hearing there is me winging it. And but still, it was an honor and a thrill to be able to interview this great man. And I'll never forget it, and I'll always cherish those couple of minutes, because I believe his part of the interview that you're about to hear is about 2 minutes and 20 seconds. So definitely the shortest interview I've ever conducted. But to add some more flavor and color to the interview, I have two guests on here, and you're going to hear right after this the actual interview as my cousin and I posted it on the website originally. I'm recording this as a new intro to it to bring things up to date, and also to put it out on the podcast and on the YouTube channel. But I brought in two friends, Steve Orchard of WOBE and WHTO up in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, good friend of mine, and a great statistician on all things music. So I reached out to him for his comments, as well as Greg Harris, the CEO of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Two great gentlemen giving two great comments about Brian Wilson. And I've just left the whole thing pretty much on there. I've added a slideshow, or updated the slideshow, so it'd be a little more palatable for you for this day and age. But it'd be your opportunity to hear what Greg and Steve have to say before we lead into my very short conversation with Brian. So here it is, warts and all. I hope you enjoy it. And rest in peace, Brian Wilson. Take care.
If you're a baby boomer and or a music nut, you have heard of and probably all about the Beach Boys and the various members of the band. As far as American pop music scene is concerned, Elvis is at the top. After the King, however, the Beach Boys' co-founder Brian Wilson is considered right up there as being music royalty. Of all the music the Beach Boys has recorded, probably the most lauded LP was their groundbreaking Pet Sounds, largely written by Brian Wilson and released over 50 years ago. I was recently afforded the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to interview Brian Wilson. He was in the midst of his final tour of performing Pet Sounds, which gave me the chance to speak very briefly with him by phone. Now I'll warn you, Wilson is notorious for his short answers and abruptly ending interviews. He's not being rude, it's just how he rolls. Such was the case when his publicist called me for our scheduled interview. As you'll hear, my chat with him was likely the shortest of my career and is similar to countless other interviews the Icon has conducted. But wow, what a thrill to be able to talk to Brian freaking Wilson. In addition to this chat, you'll hear my good friend and music statistician, Steve Orchard, from the radio station The Frog in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. He'll give us some stats on Pet Sounds, the Beach Boys, and Brian Wilson. In fact, you'll hear Steve first. Next, you'll also hear some insightful comments from Greg Harris, CEO of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Again, what you're about to eavesdrop in on are the audio files of all three of these gentlemen, raw and largely unedited. This is Randy.
Is this the famous Randy Patterson? Runs that big-time website?
Oh, man, you must have the wrong number. This must be the big
Randy
time.
Patterson guy.
Yeah, right.
How are you?
Oh, man, it's been a week, man, I tell you. It's been a rough few days, but hey, I'm getting through it and doing well, man. So what I'm looking for on the Brian Wilson stuff is just anything to... I think the data that you can provide will help punch that up a little bit, kind of help people remember just why they're so darn great. And I also, just so you'll know, I have a great few minutes from Greg Harris from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, who is also in there. So I'm going to be quoting you both.
I don't know enough about what, I know the Beach Boys had multiple number one singers. I couldn't pinpoint exactly what songs Brian sang on.
Mm-hmm.
Mike Love did a lot of the vocals on a lot of the Beach Boys, but there are some things about Brian always was considered the mastermind behind those guys, and just from a chart standpoint, if you want me to rattle off some numbers here for you.
Oh, absolutely, especially about Pet Sounds, because Brian is touring the Pet Sounds project plus some other Beach Boys stuff. So maybe give us some info on that.
Well, Pet Sounds debuted on May 28th, 1966. It's probably fared better over the years than it initially did. It only climbed to number 10. It spent 39 weeks on the charts, and it has been certified platinum. My guess is it's more than 1 million. I mean, some of these albums, there's a process you have to go through to get albums certified. When I look at compared to some of the other albums that have been down here, I don't know why that's only certified for just a million. It is in the Grammy Hall of Fame, and it also, the last time Rolling Stone did their top 500 albums of all time, they had it ranked at number 2.
Wow. They
have Pet Sounds at number 2 is the all-time album. So that's some pretty weighty company right there for that album. So you can see that it's certainly fared a lot better over the years than its initial chart position would indicate. A lot of artists are like that. I mean, I would say, as an example, Bruce Springsteen's Born to Run. That song only climbed to I think it was number 24 in its initial run, but, most people recognize that as a classic. So, so that was a number 10 album. They've actually only had a couple of number 1 albums over the years. They had Endless Summer, which was kind of I want to say it was kind of a compilation. It was a double album. That came out in 1974, and that went to number 1 for 1 week. And then, in 64, their live album, Beach Boys Concert, was number 1 for 4 weeks. And again, that was late 64 that debuted, November 7th of 64. I'd have to look specifically at another book to get the exact, weeks at number 1 as far as what date, but it rode the charts for over a year, so those were definitely a couple of their biggest albums. Sales-wise, from what I show here, Endless Summer has been certified for 3 million copies. Again, that was a 74 album. And a couple other compilations, Best of the Beach Boys in 66 and Best of the Beach Boys Volume 2 in 67, have also been certified for sales of 2 million copies. They did have a later compilation in 2003 called The Very Best of the Beach Boys, Sounds of Summer, that was also a 2 million selling album. Brian Wilson himself, if we're going to talk about albums here, and like I said, you've got your tape running, so you can always go back and get this. Brian Wilson is a solo artist. Where am I at here? You know, he hasn't done, I mean, he's had, like, according to this last book I had, he's had, like, 1, 2, 3, 4, he's had, like, 6 charting albums, but nothing's ever really done anything. I mean, he he revamped that Smile album back in 2004, and it spent 17 weeks on the charts, and it climbed to number 13, but I don't know that we can really, I mean, that's, as far as solo albums go, he's never really done really anything on his own. It's always been with the Beach Boys.
Well, did you see anything there about his later albums? I think he came out with an album 2 or 3 years ago, because when I interviewed Jim Paterick from Ides of March, and he was part of Survivor and all that too, he had just worked, I guess, sometime within the previous few months with Brian Wilson in the studio, and you know, he was quite stoked. It was on that last album that Brian released, if I'm not mistaken. Is there any data points on that?
Yeah, the last album, as far as the book, this book I think went up to maybe, I don't know, 2013 or so. His last charting album came out in, what I show here was 2008. Now, that could be wrong now, because if you're talking about that Lucky Old Sun was the last one I showed. You know what? I know he's had other albums since then. This book doesn't go much beyond that. I'd almost, in that regard, I'd almost have to Google it, Randy.
Yeah.
You might want to just Google Brian, because this book here, they're probably due to do another album book. I think I usually like to stay current with these Whitburn album books, but this one in particular is, that would have probably been it for...
Okay, no worries. Don't worry about it. But,
okay.
Is there anything else on the Beach Boys or Brian Wilson that you'd like to add?
Well, I'm just looking here. I'm looking at the singles charts right now, and I think everybody kind of knows the story about Good Vibrations. I mean, that's probably his crown jewel. You know, it's been dubbed as the most expensive single ever made. I mean, that particular song, I mean, it's in the Grammy Hall of Fame. It's in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Rolling Stone considered it the number 6 single on their top 500 songs when the last time they did that. And there's a couple other things. I don't know what this is. RIAA number 24. I mean, the Recording Industry of America lists it as number 24 all time. And that was number 1 for 1 week in '66. They did have bigger number ones than that. All-time biggest number 1, well, I guess it would be Good Vibrations is what they've got listed here. And then next would be I Get Around, which number 1 for 2 weeks. Help Me Rhonda, which I want to say, I think Al Jardine sang lead on that one. Help Me Rhonda was number 1 for 2 weeks. And Kokomo later on down the line, which I don't know how many people consider that a Beach Boys classic, but it was nice to see them get another number 1 at that point.
Yeah. Well, it was good to see them get it in the 90s, right? So.
Well, it was 88 when he got that. 1988.
Was it? Oh heck! I thought it was in. I thought it was early '90s. Shows you how good my movie trivia is.
Came out of the Cocktail movie, which I think you know, the Tom Cruise movie.
Yeah.
So it debuted at September of '88, and probably didn't look like it looped into '89, but yeah, that was what that is. So yeah, I mean, there's, Brian Wilson, basically the main guy, keyboards and bass was his big thing. So. And then there's so much you could, gosh darn it, I mean, I'd have a hard time. I'd have to sit and think, and you didn't even get a lot of time to talk to him.
No.
So,
you're probably giving me more than he did.
I don't know if that'll help you right there.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, man. It's huge help.
Whenever I interview an inductee into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, I like to reach out to our good Boomerocity friend, Greg Harris.
Greg is the CEO of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and he is always gracious to give us some great insight and commentary about whomever we are interviewing. That's exactly what he did for us regarding Brian Wilson. Here's what he had to say.
Greg Harris.
Greg, Randy Patterson here. Hey,
so all right, Randy.
Appreciate you taking the time to talk about Brian Wilson for a couple minutes here. I interviewed him a couple weeks ago. From your perspective as a CEO of the hall and all that, just give your thoughts of him, where if you know him personally and your insight into that, or just his impact, kind of a generic impact on rock and roll, history of rock and roll, whatever comes to mind and you want to speak from your heart. I don't want to dictate it. I feel that works better that way. So just speak top of mind about him.
Top of mind about Brian Wilson. Yeah. One of the greats of not just rock and roll, but of all of 20th century music. And really incredible songwriting, and also ability to convey sort of sensitivity through sound, as well as lyric. And during songs of this century, he is responsible for things that connect millions of people when they hear the opening notes to not just one or two of these songs, but the dozens of these songs. When you hear the organ come in, or when you hear the harmonies come in to start, that's really where it's at. And I think it's especially incredible that he made amazing popular hits, and then his sort of focused studio work on Pet Sounds and on Smile, and those that just the genius of the ear and the creativity that got those sounds, just remarkable. And the fact that he it continues to make great records, and continues to be open to collaborating and working with so many other musicians is a testament to his I think his creative ability and just massive impact. How's that? That's a long one.
That's a great one. I appreciate that. What about how about as an inductee? What's been his relationship with the Rock Hall?
I can't say much about it, to be honest. I'm sorry about that. We do celebrate and honor the band at the museum. We have, they have a very nice footprint in our main exhibition hall, as fitting for their impact on rock and roll, and the fact that they were, just after the first pioneers. It's amazing to have a writer in a group that reaches such great popularity early, but then can also back it up over a long period of time, and that's really where they fit into, I believe, into the sort of rock and roll canon, and their impact and influence on so many others, and their creativity. The whole election piece, I just can't. They were inducted in 1988. Let me take a peek and see who else they went in with in 88. Maybe there's something. 1988. There we go. Let's see who they went in with. Well, they went in with the Beatles.
Wow.
And with Bob Dylan. So their year, I think we can talk about that, to be inducted in the same year as the Beatles, as Bob Dylan, as Leadbelly, Woody Guthrie, Les Paul, the Supremes, and the Drifters is truly, a testament to their stature and fitting. And I think that every artist that I named would turn around and voice their admiration for Brian Wilson, the Beach Boys.
I agree.
And I skipped over in that run. Berry Gordy Jr. was also inducted that year to the architect of Motown. So you've got the Beatles, you got Dylan, the Beatles, the Beach Boys.
Wow.
It's pretty good company.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and fitting. Very fitting.
Yeah.
Well, hey,
So I think that's the big Hall of Fame story there, is to look at them in the context of those people, as it's not by accident that they went in all together. Their impact and influence has been massive.
well, good deal. Well, Greg, I appreciate you taking the time to chat with me on this, and the piece will be out in May. It'll be both on Boomerocity and Everything Knoxville magazine. So, because he's going to be performing here in Knoxville at the Tennessee Theater, and so that's what drove this whole interview thing.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you, and I hope you make it to the show.
All right, I think I will. But in the meantime, let me know if I can be of any service to you guys. You guys have always been a great help to Boomerocity, and I always appreciate that.
Our pleasure, and we appreciate being included. Have a great day.
You too, sir. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
All right, folks, here's my brief career high chat with the Beach Boys' Brian Wilson.
Knoxville show.
Hello, Ian.
Hello, Brian. Randy Patterson here with Boomerocity and Everything Knoxville magazine. How are you today?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm doing great and looking forward to your show in a couple of months coming down through here. So it's a personal thrill for me to be able to talk to somebody like you, Brian, and after hearing you for all my life, this is a huge honor. So I know you're pressed for time, so I'll get right to the chase and ask you a few questions here. So this tour is the last performance of Pet Sounds. Why is that? What's the motivation by kind of wrapping it up as being the final tour for this?
Well, we've toured the world, a world tour, so we're just about ready to wrap up.
What can fans expect from a show during this tour?
Well, they can expect Pet Sounds and a lot of Beach Boy classics.
And what's been the response so far?
Very good. We've gone over very well.
Oh, good. Good deal. I've interviewed Jim Paterick a couple years ago, and he was so stoked to have been privileged to work with you on your last album. And with so many people who look up to you and see you as either a real or an imagined mentor, they just have you on this pedestal and love, the honor of working with you. Who would you like to work with who is up and coming, so to speak? Who's on your radar as far as somebody you'd like to work with?
Well, Paul McCartney.
Yeah, I've heard of him.
Yeah.
What kind of project would you want to work with them on for?
Maybe recording.
I see. Well, who as far as new talent is concerned, who's commanding your attention?
What, nowadays?
Yeah, nowadays, new artists.
No, I haven't been listening to the music beside the Elvis Goody.
I see. That's that's a pretty good point. I do think that there are people though who are emulating the sounds that you guys and your peers have made and trying to maybe carry the mantle, especially in the area of blues and rhythm and blues. Are you catching any of those people?
Yeah, I've listened to quite a few. I really like that kind of music.
Anybody in particular who stands out?
No.
No? Okay. You've accomplished so much in your life and career. What would you still like to accomplish?
Me? I would like to accomplish a rock and roll album.
And how do you envision that? What would that rock and roll album sound like?
I don't know. It's just give me a rock and roll album.
Well, have you started working on it yet?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. When can we expect to hear it?
Next year.
All right. Super. Well, you've come out about your personal battles and spoken out so much about it, which is very brave, and I think that's got to have helped a lot of people who look up to you. And I'm just wondering, is there a particular story from anyone who has come to you and said, hey man, Brian, you coming out and talking about your life and your experiences and the things that you've wrestled with has helped me? Has anybody shared their story with you, and can you share it with us?
No, not really. No.
Wow. Okay. Well, because you've gone through so much, what do you love most about life these days?
Music. I love music mostly.
Okay. Well, shifting gears a little bit, I want to ask you a business question. I know you've gone head-to-head with the music industry over the term of your career. If you were made music czar over the music business over the entire world, what would you do to fix the music business, or does it even need fixing in your opinion?
Well, I think people should never take drugs, you know.
Okay. But what about the music business model itself? How does that need to be fixed? What's the music business doing wrong that you would fix if you were made music czar?
I can't answer that question.
Okay. Alrighty. Well, what's on your radar for the next year and the next 5 years?
Rock and roll album and maybe another tour.
All right. Super. Well, final question for you. How do you, and I know you've been asked this a million times, but I want to ask you this. How do you want to be remembered, and what do you hope your legacy is?
What's that?
I said, how do you, when your life is over, you've stepped off the tour bus of life up at the great gig in the sky, how do you want to be remembered, and what do you hope your legacy is?
I want to be remembered a good singer. Thank you for the interview.
All right. Thank you, sir. Have a great day.
Okay, bye.
This has been another fun-filled episode of Boomerocity with your host and producer, Randy Patterson. The theme song is Roll the Dice and is recorded and used by permission from Quinton Hope. Quinton is spelled Quinten, and Hope is Hope. And you can find out more about Quinton at quintonhope.com. Post-production is done by Cardinal Sins Productions. The Boomerocity name, logo, and content is copyright protected. Segments may only be used with written permission by Boomerocity and or its assignees. Inquiry should be directed to input@boomerocity.com. Copyright 2025.